Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the September 2025 session of the Richmond Art Gallery's Artist Salon series, featuring our guest artist today, Aysha McConkey. My name is Kathy Tykolis. I'm the Richmond Art Gallery's Education and Public Programs Coordinator, and I'm here to host our program and moderate your questions for tonight. So welcome everyone out there. First, on behalf of the Richmond Art Gallery Association, I would like to welcome you to this program hosted by the Richmond Art Gallery, which is located on the traditional and ancestral lands of the Hunkaminam speaking peoples, which are the nations that have lived along the Fraser River Delta since time immemorial, including the Musqueam. And I would like to thank you all out there for joining us today from wherever you're zooming in from and supporting the Richmond Art Gallery Association's programs. In a few minutes, I will welcome our presenter who will lead a presentation about her mural work and offer some tips for those of you who are looking to enter that field, followed by some Q&A with all of you. But before we begin, just a few housekeeping notes about the program and today's session. So for those of you who might be new to the Artist Salon, this program is a monthly series of free talks and events designed specifically for visual artists and creatives, hosted on the fourth Wednesday of each month from February to November. The goal of the program is to offer artists a mix of professional development tips and advice, along with artists' personal stories and experiences to help strengthen and build our artist community, while encouraging artists to keep on making and growing in your own art practice. The Artist Salon does also exist as a private Facebook group, providing resources for artists in the Lower Mainland, such as artist calls for exhibitions, residencies, professional development opportunities, local arts events, and also serves as a space for you out there, our visual artist community, to connect with one another. So I welcome you to join our private Facebook group and share your art events with each other. We've just posted that in the chat for you if you haven't joined our Salon Facebook group. And you can find out more about this group, as well as all our offerings, in case you're not on Facebook, on our Richmond Art Gallery website as well. So with housekeeping out of the way, we are in for a great session with our artist. I would first like to introduce our presenter, Aysha McConkey. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Aysha was introduced to me via online. We haven't actually met in person yet, through the Richmond Public Art Mural Program, as Aysha had just completed a mural work for them, the bathroom, as some people might call it, which I'm sure Aysha will share with us tonight. Lovely name for it, isn't it?
That's hilarious. That's the new nickname. That's pretty awesome.
Unfortunately, we weren't able to get someone from Public Art to join us tonight. So before I introduce Aysha, I just want to introduce the Richmond Mural Program with the info they did send to me. Aysha and I know a little bit about the Richmond Mural Program, but if you do have very specific questions for them, I recommend you contact them. And that would be at Public Art, which is all one word, at richmond.ca. And they can answer any more specific questions for you that we might not cover tonight. So about the City of Richmond Mural Program, the Mural Program adds vibrancy to highly visible public spaces as it fosters community, connection, and cross-cultural exchange across generations. Annually, a call for walls is announced, and interested property owners can apply to have a mural on their property by submitting a property owner application. If successful, city staff will work with the applicant to match them with a pre-qualified artist to create the mural. Property owners agree to maintain the mural for a minimum of 5 years. For artists interested in participating in the program, you must apply to be included in the Community Mural Artist roster, which is updated biannually. The next call for artists to apply to the Community Mural roster will be in spring 2026. So you can contact Public Art for more information if you want to be an artist to apply for one of these murals. That was that publicart@richmond.ca email address, or you can visit the website for more info, which has also just been posted into our chat, because I know it's a bit hard to find on the City of Richmond website. So now you know a little bit about the mural program, I will briefly introduce you to Aysha, and she will then introduce her to her art practice and mural work, which we will follow up with questions from you. To let you all know, I had asked Aysha to show us behind the scenes of what it takes to get a mural done. And I know she is going to be offering us a ton of insight and very practical advice. So get your note-taking tools ready for this one. So for a brief introduction and to the very cool jobs that she has had, including BC's Bat Ambassador, which I'm very jealous of. Aysha McConkey, a junior biologist and wildlife artist, graduated with a Bachelor in Environmental Studies, Natural Sciences at the University of Fraser Valley in the fall of 2024. Her love for the outdoors later evolved into pursuing a career path in wildlife biology and conservation. Since 2019, she has worked with a variety of different species in British Columbia, like barn owls, western toads, painted turtles, Oregon forest snail, and a variety of bat species. Art has always been a hobby and a passion, but in 2023, she realized her art could also be a source for science communication and to bring awareness to species at risk. With more species becoming at risk due to loss of habitat, wildfires, and climate change, her interests are to create art showcasing native animals and ecosystems of British Columbia and the environmental issues we face in this generation. McConkey's art is also inspired by her work in wildlife conservation, academic research, and habitat restoration. She specializes in painting, scientific illustrations, graphic design, murals, and participates in markets, fairs, and festivals. And you can follow her at her Instagram at Aysha McConkey Art. So welcome, Aysha. I'm so happy to have you here today. I'm really looking forward to this presentation. I will disappear into the background and then come back for the Q&A. And again, feel free to throw up your Q&A anytime throughout. You don't have to wait till the end. So I'll let you take it away, Aysha.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm just going to take a second here to set up my presentation. So just give me 1 minute. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for that great introduction on me. I feel like you wrapped it up very well. Thank you for all of you for attending my presentation, The Anatomy of a Mural, a deep dive into creating murals. And I hope from this discussion, you're going to be able to take away a bunch of facts and information that I wish I had when I was first starting off doing murals. And you'll know from what you need to do from start to finish to get into the mural world and start creating art on your own. All right, so just a little extra introduction about me, just to go over some facts that were already stated. I'm a recent graduate from the University of the Fraser Valley with a bachelor's in environmental sciences. I now currently work as a junior biologist and work with BC bats to help conserve our local bat populations in BC. When I'm not on the field, I'm at a desk creating art relating to my work experience, illustrating native animals and plant life of British Columbia. My art journey has taken me from doing sketches in my classroom to doing large murals in the school itself and being able to educate the public on specific environmental concerns and also educating about the species that are at risk and that are native here to our province. And that's kind of how it all started. So let's just go over where it all kind of first began for me. My first ever mural was The Spirit of Robert Bateman. It was initially a contest entry for a school scholarship when I was at the Robert Bateman Secondary, which I won and then used towards my university career, and that was my first way of paying. The second mural I did was known as Homage to Abigail the Goat. This was done for free and on behalf of the community of the Happy Herd Farm Sanctuary, where I actually volunteered at through my high school. It goes to show that your first steps into creating murals starts off as acts of community service, just what you want to do, and also because I wanted to do it and I wanted to bring more life and color into the communities that I was a part of at that time. The one that really changed it all for me was the paid mural opportunity at the University of the Fraser Valley. It all started because of one of my professors noticed me in class sketching, and she fell in love with my art style and came to me with the idea to create a huge four-wall spanning mural that would cover a building. And then would go up the stairway all the way into the fourth floor of a building at UFV. The mural is a timeline tracing the evolutionary history of Western Canada's waters and its diverse species. The goal was to create something not only beautiful, but also educational. A daily reminder for students of the interconnectedness between their studies and the world around them, and to also get people more interested in the geography and environmental department as well. The final floor of that mural shows the present day where I illustrated the Great Blue Heron Reserve in Chilliwack. This is where me and many students conducted research projects and went to learn hands-on experience and skills in environmental sciences. So it was almost a love letter to the park itself. This was one of my most ambitious murals. It took me a year while being a full-time student and also a part-time research assistant. So I had a lot going on. And just a side note, a mural shouldn't take you a year. So, but this is one of my favorite murals I think I've ever painted. The next mural I got to be a part of due to my experience creating that UFE mural was getting hired to assist in creating this collaborative mural in downtown Abbotsford for City/Scene, led by artist Chantel Trainer Matisse. Each year, the Reach Gallery in Abbotsford invites emerging artists from the Fraser Valley and beyond to take part in a cornerstone mentorship program known as Art on Demand and City Scene, which I got to be a part of. This mural highlights the interconnectedness of life and invites viewers to reflect on the importance of protecting our natural world. The entire process of this mural, from sketch work to adding the final touches with paint, took a total of around 2.5 weeks. Now, my latest mural that I'm sure everyone in Richmond is aware of is thanks to the community mural program with the city of Richmond. The Richmond Community Mural Program connects artists with local partners to transform blank walls in Richmond into eye-catching public artworks that reflects Richmond's unique characters and neighborhoods. This four-walled mural illustrates the bat species that are found in Richmond, with associated habitats that each species can be found in. This mural project then led me to this opportunity to show you how I got to where I am, what steps I took to become a muralist, and so then you can apply these steps to your own art journey. Sorry. All right, so what are these first steps? We're going to be going over first, how do you even find mural opportunities, how to create an artist CV, portfolio, and statement of intent, and then understanding what your worth is as an artist, because that's also extremely important. So, the first step in wanting to create murals is looking for mural applications. Thanks to social media, we have access to a variety of different platforms that companies and businesses use to post mural applications on. Some of the best social media apps to find these postings are Instagram, Facebook, Book an Artist, and email. Instagram and Facebook are very similar with their algorithm, where if you talk about murals and art a lot and you like and comment on posts towards those particular topics, the app is going to show you more art postings and jobs that are related to doing public art and murals. Many local art galleries, if you follow them, will also post art callouts on their stories and posts, which is a great way to work locally and build better engagement with your art. The difference between the two is Facebook has a strong group communities, which can really help with looking for events to sell your art and also expand your name and get your name out there, like Vendors Helping Vendors BC and Alberta, and many other art groups to share your art to reach an even bigger audience and to find people who are interested in your work and your art style. Book an Artist is a free to join website that acts as a virtual marketplace for mural applications. The website lets you create your own portfolio for people to look at your art and even have clients contact you if they're interested. As an artist, there are also mural calls where you can apply for mural opportunities. The one thing about the website that there is a catch to is there's a service charge fee for about around 10 to 20% if you find work through their website. However, one of the oldest and best methods for getting mural work is just to send emails to companies or shops and cafes you know locally and ask if they'd be interested in a mural. This is a more personal approach and allows you to share who you are. So even if the client is not interested at that time for a mural, they know your face and have your email to hold on to and look back on if they change their mind. You can also go in person and introduce yourself, which helps to show that you're a real person and how interested you are in creating a painting for them. Once you find that mural opportunity you're trying to get into, you're dying to get, you need to have a strong statement of intent, CV, and portfolio. For most mural applications, it will require you to write a statement of intent. This is supposed to be a short introduction that captures who you are as an artist, and why you're interested in the particular mural opportunity. Applications will have a word length requirement, which is approximately around 250 to 500 words. I attached an example from my previous mural application for the city scene Abbotsford Collaborative Mural and highlighted the sections of how I constructed my statement. My first sentence immediately tells you what I specialize in and what my interests are. This is important from separating you or like me from other applicants. I then use an example from my portfolio to emphasize my style and intent and end the paragraph by stating how this opportunity would not only benefit me, but what I can bring to this project. For each mural application, your statement of intent should change and reflect based on the project themes and requirements, just like a cover letter. The next step is to create your artist CV or resume, which I usually create in Microsoft Word. A CV presents a full history of your academic and professional accomplishments, while a resume presents a concise summary of your qualifications that is usually only 1 to 2 pages long. For me, it's important that it's always have an updated CV to keep track of all of my accomplishments so that if I need to go back to it and create a new resume, I have a sheet to go off of everything I've done. The sections you should have in a CV, in this order that I use, is your contact information, which includes your name, address, email, and your phone number. Then you list your educational experience, your exhibitions, your awards, your commissions, and then your mural experience. Make sure for each section you list from most to least current. Keep everything cleaned and organized by having enough spacing and not too many words. And number your pages on the bottom right corner so whoever you give it to can keep track of what page they're on. Next is your portfolio. For your portfolio, most applications will state the maximum amount of paintings to include in the portfolio, which can be anywhere from 3 to 20. When choosing images, make sure your photos are of high quality of your art. For smaller paintings, scan your paintings or illustrations and then edit them on Photoshop. For taking photos of murals, a regular phone can get some good shots, but it's even better to use a high quality camera, like a Canon camera, or even hire a photographer to get shots of your mural that you can then use for marketing on your social media and for your website. When shots are horizontal, it's important to have your art in a landscape orientation, making sure that each image fills up the page so whoever's looking at it can really see all the detail. When shots are then under your image, write down the name, the date of creation, what medium you used, and the size of the mural or painting to give context. As I stated before, you want to use the best examples of your style and most recent art, depending on if the mural application has a specific theme or style. Then cater to those requests to satisfy what your client is looking for. Now, the first thing that I always consider when reading applications, even before I apply, is this worth it to me as an artist? It's important to know that most open mural projects and applications are set at a fixed price. This means that clients is only giving you a certain amount of money and there's no other exception. So then you need to consider before you apply, how much time are you going to be putting into this project? How much like tools and materials and the cost of everything is going to be, how complex your design is going to take, the amount of travel is needed to get to the site and back home, and just regular expenses too. And that even includes food and water to make sure that you're fed during that entire time you're working, and possibly insurance. You want to make sure a mural project is going to leave you with a positive experience and not one that's going to leave you drained and defeated and almost like a chore. Some mural applications will also ask for a free sketch or even a completed design before applying. You then need to ask yourself, are you willing to create a finished concept art without any cost? Concept art can take anywhere from maybe a couple hours a day to a couple days, maybe a week. That is a lot of work for possible no payoff. These two examples just show that it's important to read the rules and guidelines for the application you're looking at, because sometimes you need to question if it's even worth it to you at the end of the day. So now let's say you killed it, you have a mural coming up. What are your next steps towards planning a mural? This would be involving researching your mural subject, the sketch, communicating and reviewing with your client, creating a final draft, collecting tools and materials, preparing the wall, and then finally painting. So, when it comes to what you're going to design for the mural, this could be already given to you by the client, or you're given the creative liberty to come up with whatever you want. Regardless, you're going to have to put in some research into your sketch, and it's important to find accurate information, especially if you're wanting to illustrate wildlife, plants, in different environments that are specific to our region. If you're planning on painting a mural that involves animals and plants, and you want it to be accurate to your region, it's important to find that right information so you're not misleading the public either. For me, I find this information through many different apps and softwares. For example, one that brings me inspiration towards native wildlife is an app called iNaturalist. This is a citizen science social media network where thousands of people share and record the biodiversity found in a certain region, which is then checked and overviewed to make sure what people are photographing and recording is accurate. You can find hundreds and thousands of photos in a variety of different animals and plants in Canada, and to make sure that they're either native, invasive, or endangered. You can also use non-government and government organizations that will have peer-reviewed journals and publications on wildlife and plants that reside in BC. YouTube also has many free educational documentaries and videos of wildlife, which can also help you gain inspiration for setting the mural and figuring out a color scheme and the topic and what species you want to illustrate. However, some of the best references and research you can do is just going into nature yourself and finding your own references. For example, in my slide here, my bat mural with the bridge I painted was actually Ninth Street Bridge in Richmond, which I took a photo shown in the top right section of this slide. Before sketching the bat mural, I took the time to visit different areas and environments of Richmond, which really helped me design my mural and make it more personal to the city itself. For me, it's important to inspect the wall that I'm going to be painting on and making measurements. I record the length and width of the wall, and which I will then use to create an accurate size canvas on Procreate, which is my drawing software, in the exact shape and size of the wall that I'm going to be painting on. So as you can see from this slide, from my measurements and photos, I was able to create a replica, a one-on-one canvas for my sketch so that it would be an easy layover for when I start the mural. However, before even starting the sketch, it is extremely important, and I'm emphasizing this a lot, to communicate with your client to go over exactly what they want to see before the sketch to make sure everything is to your client's liking. So, discussing theme, your elements, the color scheme, the detail, like anything you can think of. This will allow you to minimize the possibility of large changes in your sketch later on. It's important at this stage that you don't want the sketch to be too detailed as well, as you're just trying to figure out how this mural is going to look, and you don't want to take up too much time when that time can be used for finalizing the design and painting. If possible, always charge a sketch fee, as sketching is also your time being spent working on murals. An important step for creating your sketch is finding good references. So, as stated before, iNaturalist is a great source for finding hundreds of animal, insect, and plant photographs and information regarding what species they are and where they're located. It's then important to write that information down. So, if someone were to ask you what you illustrated, you don't forget. So, Make sure you have that information locked down. Your mural design should flow together and have a story behind it because it can draw in more people and, get people to ask questions and follow along. And that's how, for me, I feel I get it really attracted to art is looking at the story behind it. Um, I create for me to emphasize like the story I'm creating. I create small informative PDFs explaining my sketch to my client. As you can see here in the slide, this is like an example of one of my pages. I include the species that I am illustrating, the color scheme that I'll have, the references I used, and how everything represented is relevant to each other. So after you're done or I'm done with my initial sketch, I hand it in to the client for overview. Almost every time there will be edits you will need to make. For example, this is a before and after of my initial bat mural sketch and the changes I had to make afterwards. The first change I had to make was the size of the bats. I was told that the bats were too large and they looked scary. So in return, I had to make the bats smaller. By making the largest bat smaller, it created empty space on the upper right corner, which I then added in a forest background to connect to the other mural section on the right-hand side of the building, and then also added in another leaf on the left-hand side. Another trait I had for the mural was having names around the bats, so knowing the species. But I was informed that they weren't didn't want the names present, so I had to remove them, and that was a quick and easy fix. I want to show another example of the importance of finalizing a sketch. This is one where I didn't do that and it changed completely. So here's an example of a finished design. So you see the initial final design I created for a mural, which ended up changing drastically due to not confirming with one of my 4 clients. This project involved 4 people who were paying for the project. And while I was informed to create a design with dancing instruments, it wasn't until I was finished the painted version that they wanted to include people in the mural and to also paint only the upper portion of the wall, so disincluding the lower portion of the wall. So I then had to remove the bottom wall design. I added humans and musicians and turned the music lines, which are called staffs, into a more fluid form that moved around and through the musicians, kind of like magic. This change took me 2 days to finalize and fix, but now that I see the mural as is, it looks fantastic and I'm happy with the change. But for anyone else, it's best just to get that sketch 100% confirmed before starting this painted version, the final version, which we're gonna go over. So this is an example of a final draft. Once my sketch is finalized, I use Procreate to paint a digital representation of the mural. This shows my client exactly how the mural will look and also allows me to create a digital mock-up, which I'll show you how to do, which is great for showing your clients what your mural is going to look like on a wall. So using Procreate, I upload a photo of the wall I took in one of my layers on the app, on the drawing software. Then I upload my design above the wall layer and set it to overlay. So you're gonna overlay your paint, your illustration, your design. This makes the painting look like it's actually on the wall with texture and lighting from that exact photo. This is a great way to show your client exactly what your mural is going to look like in real life, and then they can get an idea themselves of, okay, this is what I'm paying for, this is what I'm looking for, and just making small changes can also be acceptable, just depending. So once your mural design is approved for painting, now you need to get all your materials needed for the project. This is where, a lot of money comes in initially. Some of these items are pretty straightforward, like acquiring a variety of different sizes of paintbrushes, which I recommend, for big paintbrushes. Home Depot has a great selection, but Michael's Arts and Crafts and your local art stores too will have tons of paintbrushes to choose from. Disposable plastic or paper cups to mix paint in, because if you're working with, heavier duty like outdoor paint, you can use a palette, which you can get at Michael's Arts and Crafts. But it's so thick and you'll need so much. It's almost better to pour your paint into cups and just create a new color. Um, You're gonna want a giant Home Depot bucket to fill water in because you're gonna be cleaning those paintbrushes a lot and you're gonna need a lot of water, so why not get a big bucket? Paint itself, which we'll go over next. And paper towel to clean your paintbrushes. And also, if you have a mistake and you have to clean it up really fast, you want to make sure you have something to wipe the wall down. One thing that's important to consider is your posture and your comfort because your body is worth something and you're only going to do as good as you are as long as you're feeling good. So it's worth to invest in wearing and purchasing comfortable shoes. And because you're going to be standing for long, long periods of time, depending on how much time you really want to be out painting for. But it is a lot of stress on your feet if you're painting every day. Another good thing you can get is a kneeling pad to avoid bruising on your knees, because also being on your knees all day will just cause a lot of pain issues, especially if you stand up after 5 hours. Especially also if you're working on like tough ground, like cement. That's not the most comfortable place to stand and kneel on. For most walls, you're going to need a ladder. I really recommend the Little Giant Mega Light Plus multi-use ladder M18. It is one of the best ladders I've ever owned, and it allows for a variety of heights. And the one thing that drew me to it the most was that it's adjustable on stairs. So when I was working on my mural on the stairwell at UFE, this ladder allowed me to adjust to the stairs so I can go on it and still paint and not having to worry about falling. It's also important to keep a clean environment when painting murals. Make sure to purchase a drop cloth. These can be made with a variety of different materials, from a $4 plastic sheet that you use once and throw out to a reusable $40 cotton or canvas drop cloth. Masking tape is also important for taping off sections that should be not painted on and keeping your mural work professional, because if you have a bunch of paint everywhere that's not supposed to be, like on door frames and windows, then it's not going to look so good. If you're going to be using a projector, which will cost you anywhere from $100 to $3,000, highly recommend, going to like say Staples, as they offer warranty programs to your projectors. You will also need a projector stand, which is easily found on Amazon for good prices. However, most projectors need to be plugged in to operate, so especially in cases both indoor and outdoors. So you will need to get an extension cord, and then to plug into that projector, you'll need a generator to power your projector. It's important that if you're running a projector, that you're going to need a spill tray under the generator because leaks can happen, and a drip tray can catch the fuel before it stains concrete or seeps into soil. And for me, I want to leave an environmental impact that's positive, and I want to stay green and make sure that I'm not causing any damage to my surroundings. A drip tray is also just useful in general for putting your paint on. So, you say you knock something over, all that paint is staying in that drip tray. It's not going anywhere. So, I highly, highly recommend drip trays. They're fantastic, and you can get them at Home Depot. All right. So, we're finally on paints. When it comes to purchasing paint, I buy all my paint from Home Depot. Most of the time, if you're painting a mural with a bunch of different colors, I have only ever used sample sizes and a few quarts to paint all my murals. You should ever only purchase the gallon pints if you're painting a very, very large mural, which I haven't gotten to do yet, so that's fantastic because it's very expensive. The bigger the can, the more expensive it's going to be. Um, Home Depot paints have four different qualities to them, or not qualities, sorry, the how good it is almost. So you get Bare Premium Plus and Ultra. It usually requires around 1 to 2 coats of paint, while Ultra is better at a stain resistant and able to cover dark patches better on the wall. So say you have graffiti, the Ultra will do a better job at covering that section rather than Premium, which will take a couple more coats to cover up. Mark and Dynasty is like the highest quality of Behr paint you can get at Home Depot. It's a guaranteed 1 coat coverage, with the difference between the two is that Dynasty is a stain repellent. Um, then you need to decide if you want the paint to look like. Do you want it flat, satin, or glossy paint? Flat paint is non-reflective and is best used in low traffic areas and has a low stain resistance. Eggshell has a soft and velvety appearance and is good for moderate traffic areas with low stain resistance as flat. Satin and semi-gloss give off a soft pearl-like appearance and is best suited for high traffic areas with satin being better in resistance. High gloss is the most shiny appearance, but is recommended for like the most high trafficked areas and is the most stain resistance. For me personally, I've mostly stick to flat or eggshell appearance and go with a Bare Premium Plus. I've never had any issues with it, especially because for most of my murals, I put a protective cover over it, like a paint to make sure it's graffiti resistant. And you can do that, but if you want paint that kind of comes with that stain repellent, Home Depot has those options. Now that you have your paint, it's now we gotta prepare that wall. So it's important to prep that wall because it can impact how well your mural will turn out. The first step would involve washing it down with either a pressure wash or with a bucket of water and a cloth, just hands on. Then you'll need to tape off any sections or corners that should not be painted on, like door and window trims. And then finally placing a drop cloth down and around where you'll be painting to avoid paint getting everywhere. For the tape, you can get a bunch of varieties of widths and sizes at Home Depot. Once the walls are cleaned and the sections are taped off, you'll then need to prime the walls. This is important for ensuring that the paint sticks well to the wall and also helps with color vibrancy and provides a clear and clean canvas for you to sketch your design onto so you can see your lines better and it's a lot easier process. It's important to note that primer doesn't have to be white. It can be any color that would be best suited for your mural. So for example, say 30-40% of your mural, it has a blue sky and it's that one color. You could use a primer that's a light blue to cover the as your like your canvas. So then you're eliminating that time it'll take to paint that sky. Now, there's going to be three different methods here for transporting your sketch that's on your iPad onto the wall itself. And that's looking at the projector, the grid method, and the doodle method. So my personal method that I use now all the time is a projector. The projector I use specifically is the Epson Home Cinema 1080p, where you can find at any Staples and can purchase a 2-year warranty for it. At 2 feet, it can project up to 30 inches wide, and at 22 feet distance, it can project up to 300 inches. So this is really, really good, especially if you're doing large scale murals. Most projectors will require a power source. So if you're working indoors, you'll require an extension cable and for outdoors as well. You'll need to purchase a generator and make sure that you have a spill tray, as I stated before, to make sure you're not going to have any leaks and environmental impact. The projector will also, when you're projecting, you should get a stand for your iPad that you're connecting to your projector so that you're able to adjust your image while you're sketching. So say if you need to do it in sections, you have your iPad right there just to adjust the image, which has helped me a lot. So getting two different stands is really important. Um, it's best to do projectors at night in dark areas or cloudy days, as long as there's no sun directly on where you are sketching. I can usually pull out my projector midday or later in the evening and start with my sketch. Once the image is casted, I recommend using colored pencils as they don't smudge like regular pencils. But if you do use colored pencils, bring a lot. Most of my murals, I've gone through maybe 6 to 10 color pencils to get through the entire sketch process. So yeah, and a lot of erasers and sharpeners. So the second method that you can use that doesn't involve the projector, and is what I used before I purchased mine, was the grid method. This involves creating a grid with pencil crayons or a pencil, and you can either use a ruler or a laser level to get accurate lines. Once you finish creating your grid, you can take a photo of the wall and create a mock-up like I showed in the previous slides and use that image as a reference to start tracing your design onto the wall. So kind of like filling in the blank. Well, I've never used this method before, but this is referred to as the doodle method. But for me, I refer it to as the chaotic version of the grid method. The doodle method involves creating random little doodles all over the wall. Similar to the grid method, after you're done filling up the wall with all random doodles of whatever you want, it'd be little images or numbers, letters. You take a photo of it and create a mock-up like you did with the grid. And then you sketch your design based on the image that you overlaid onto. So, depending, you can always try this at home on a piece of paper and see what method works for you the best. Now that you finally have your sketch and outline on the wall and everything's prepped and ready, you can finally start painting. It's important to always check the weather and make sure you know if there will be any chance of rain to give you a heads up if you need to start packing up or if you'll need to take off a day. Some murals may require you to use a scaffold due to the height or a mobile elevating platform. At most times, you'll need insurance to cover the use of a scaffold in case of injury, as well as the mobile elevating platform. But for the elevating platform, you'll need proper training and a certificate to operate. Once you finish the mural, always make sure to sign your name in full. And I personally like to put the year to show when the mural was made for people to look back on. But there's a bunch of other elements that are important to consider when you're painting. And that's your environment. You need to be prepared for all sorts of things when painting, as it can affect your work ethic. For example, if you're working in the summer, it's important to be aware of hot temperatures. So making sure you're wearing sunscreen and not going to get burnt, staying hydrated and having a lot of water on you, creating shade for yourself. Like for me, I'll wear large hats to try and keep the sun off me as much as possible. It's okay to take breaks too, especially in hot days where you could get heat stroke or overwork yourself and start getting like a migraine. So just remember, especially if you have deadlines, you need to get this painting done. Your health matters the most. So make sure you take like maybe 5 minutes to step away and breathe, have some water. And for me as a workaholic, I had to learn that myself as well. Rain also can be a real job in your work schedule, as most of the times you can't paint in the rain, unless you bring a tarp, if you're working outdoors. But if you're working indoors, then the rain's not really an issue. If rain is a hindrance, it's best to adjust your schedule and accept the mural may take an extra few days. For me, when I'm planning a mural, I'll always have a, a cautionary week to make up for if there's a lot of rain or I can't paint certain days due to weather. And then that helps you give you a safety net. Make sure when you go to paint, you're packing a good amount of food and water. You need to fuel your body, as you could paint from 4 hours a day to up to 12 hours. And that's a lot of energy that you'll be using up. Your work really depends on your health. And if you don't feel good, you're not going to do your best. The last element when painting murals is the presence of the public. No matter where you paint, you're going to have people and observers coming up to you, wanting to chat, or maybe just at times watch. It's important to set up boundaries to help set up a safe space for the public and for you as well, painting to give yourself room and an area to breathe, because this is your job and you need to make sure you're getting your work done. This can be achieved, like from what I've done, by setting up traffic cones or even using traffic tape to tie them together to create like a nice gate or wall for people to, that's the limit that they can come up to. And if they want to chat, I can always turn around and say, hey. Also wearing headphones can help if you want to stay concentrated, because if people see big headphones in your ears, then they know you can't hear them. But I love the public and I love when people come talk to me. So I always enjoy it. The last step when painting a mural is to enjoy your time and make sure to record everything. We live in an age of social media where we need to share your content all the time and your art to promote your skills for other people to see it. Because you just doing art, you just painting, sadly isn't enough sometimes nowadays. You gotta be a content creator to be an artist, almost. This means making sure you're recording your process of the drawing, your painting, and even the finished results, or maybe even behind the scenes of you getting paint and organizing and getting ready for a mural. This is important for marketing yourself and showing businesses the skill and talent you have to offer. When it comes to what content is better, Instagram Reels are the best source of content as it's a higher engagement rate than any other content format. It averages around 1.23% compared to 0.7% for photos and 0.99% for carousels. And then on that note, that is all the information that I wish I had, starting off my career. And I really enjoyed getting to kind of talk about everything I've learned the past 2 years. And I really hope that what I had to say helps you on your art journey. I also would like to thank the city of Richmond for giving me the opportunity to do the mural, and obviously Kathy for having me on. If you have any questions, I'd love to answer them, and I hope all of you have the best. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was like so much information, but such useful information.
Thank you.
And even for people who might not be making murals, like just to see like all the work involved that it does take into putting a mural together.
Yeah.
Um, so for those of you out there, if you want to send in your questions, please do so now in the Q&A ideally. I just will start off with a few questions. You did mention the back and forth between you and your client.
Mhm.
Any tips on that? Like, how do you deal with if they really want to completely change your design or your idea? Like, how much leeway do you
Mhm.
have and how do you deal with that?
For me personally, I luckily, other than that one incident, I haven't had that. But what I usually tell people is once we get to that final area of the final draft, like you approve of the sketch, you like the way it was composed, um, it's hard for me to change it drastically. With that one specifically, I was actually able to manipulate it a lot because the element was still there, the instruments were still used. It was just adding another theme to it, which was the people. But, say if I illustrated a bunch of bats and they're like, actually, I want all birds, then it's you're kind of being like, oh, then either you can charge them an extra fee for your time to redo the sketch and that whole process again. Because like I said, that whole time's being spent as you working. So if they want to, you just have to say, hey, I can do that, but there's just going to be an extra charge to redesign the mural. So yeah.
Mhm. Well, and following up, there's a question from that of just, do you get approval of final draft in writing? Like, would that be part of your contract starting out?
Yeah, exactly. So, I've formulated my own contract now that I've been doing more. And in my contract, I think I have charged for $200 for the sketch and the initialization of the design. And then after it, like for the sketch, if it's too many changes, then I'll charge like after five, I usually charge like $50 for more edits. And then for the final draft, if they were to drastically change it, it would just be a redo of that whole process.
Another question was about the final clear protective paint.
Mhm.
You did mention which paint you use that, offered a bit of that, but what sort of coat might you put on afterwards?
Yeah, for me personally, a lot of my clients actually like to take over that process themselves. So, which saves me on costs and time. And I feel like with your client, they want to figure out if they say want like a glossy kind of after effect, if they want it matte, and then that kind of gives them their own control over it. But Home Depot, honestly, I feel like I'm being promoted by Home Depot, has a huge variety of different coats that you could use, and the staff are always so great. And then you can always test it out too, bring it at home using a canvas, kind of painting something on a piece of wood, and then seeing how it turns out. So the probably something I will also have to do in the future eventually, but for now, I've noticed that clients really like to take over that process.
Great. Um, question, I mean, that I'm sure just comes with time is just how do you figure out your time? Like, how do you figure out knowing how long a mural is going to take?
Yeah, that's a never-ending question. I also am learning as I go. So for me, I'm starting to actually get a hold of how long each kind of mural takes me. And that really depends on my style. My style really ranges from realism to pop art to cartoon to like abstract. It depending on what they ask for, I'll give them like a realistic time frame. So usually anything that's like pop art or like not a lot of high blending can take me anywhere from a week or two, or even some. I've finished like a simple kids mural in 2 days. Something that's complex is more of like the 3 to 6 week mark. Um, and that's based on my time painting murals and realizing, oh, this is how long this project took me. So relatively, it'll take me this amount of time. Um, it also, what I like to do is measure the wall as well, because then I kind of have an understanding, okay, this I'll record myself painting like a square foot, and then see how long that section takes me, and then I just multiply that to find like an average of how long the whole thing will take me.
Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure that comes to you from experience and
Yeah, that's the mathematical side of
yeah, yeah.
it.
I mean, that just, I was very curious about the work you did at the university because it's the
Mm.
one that took you, what was it, a year
A
or?
year, yeah, almost a year and a half. And that was like in between school full
Yes,
time,
of
work
course.
full time.
But
Yeah.
even still, it was so detailed. Like how, like, do you just do like layers and like give it a day to dry and then come back? Like, because it just looked like so detailed.
Yeah, with acrylic, well the home like that's the base I use. It dries very, very, very quick. So I'm able to achieve a lot of layers and continue working without stopping because, I turn around for a minute, it dries. So that's kind of the benefit working with acrylic is it's very fast paced, but you have to be on it because if you want to blend, then you're putting another coat of paint. Um, and that mural itself was a learning curve, a huge learning curve for me because I initially started off with more expensive paint from like a paint shop. And then I realized, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And I was informed by another muralist, which is why I'm sharing that information, was the quart sizes and the sample sizes, because each sample size is only $5 when I was paying $30 for the same size. So I was saving a lot of money and then also painting even more because that paint was able to extend a lot farther than the other version that I had.
Right, right, great. Um, and I'm just trying to see too if anyone else had any other questions. Was there anything else you needed to know about murals or anything? Um, can you let us know maybe what's coming up for you too? I mean, because when did you finish the Richmond mural? Was that last summer?
Yeah, that was in June. So
Oh, so this summer. So yeah, so in
yeah, this summer. It's
so
pretty
so
recent.
or is it, being in Lower Mainland, is this kind of now the season's over and you're just planning for next summer, or like what's your
Yeah. I'm always kind of looking for work all the time. I have a bunch of little projects going on, for UFE, for Agriculture, Agri-Foods Canada, or specifically the BC Entomological Society, creating stickers and merchandise because I'm able to I have that in the biology and anatomy to kind of represent what they're looking for. I also might be working on a coloring book project, and I can't say much, so that is something that might be in the works.
Mhm.
And then yeah, there is possible more murals that I'll be working on soon. But I don't want to say anything until everything's finalized. But I have a lot of markets, so if people are interested in my art coming up, I'm gonna be at the Urban Jungle Market this Saturday in Abbotsford. Um, Also at the Abbotsford Open Call art gallery show this Friday. So I'll post it on my Instagram, so feel free to follow me, and that's where I'll post everything that's new to me, where I'll be, and what I'm working on.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't see any other questions, and I think the reason is you were super detailed. You
I did a lot of work on this.
I can tell, like I knew when I first was talking to you, I could tell, like you really know your stuff and you shared us with us like so, like thank you for being so generous. Like it is
Yeah.
for artists, it's always hard to get started and to find this
Mhm.
info. And so it's very generous of you to share with us today. And this will live online as well.
It's
For
okay.
people that want to, make murals and have more art in the community. I mean, yeah, it was very informative. So thank you so much for.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here, and maybe I'll come again in the future. Who knows?
Yes, well, we still have to meet in person, so
Yes, in person.
we'll have to get you to come out to the Richmond Art Gallery.
I would love to.
And thank you to everyone out there who joined us tonight. We'll have 2 more sessions of the salon this year. So next month, we'll actually have the artist that's exhibiting in the gallery talking about not just their art, but they have like many different hats that they wear as an artist and as a cultural worker and a community builder. So join us next month for that on the October 22nd. Meanwhile, this will be going up online soon, so we can share it with even more people. Because I think tonight was just so informative. It was, yeah, perfect. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone out there. Have a good night, and hopefully we will see you again soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you, everyone.
Bye.